You're listening to the AfterBuzz TV Network, now the largest new media platform on the web, and your #1 source for after-show entertainment.
Very good, Keith. Johnson.
From Los Angeles, California, and Maria Menounos, and streaming live thanks to Akamai Technologies, this is AfterBuzz TV Spotlight On. Spotlight On is a long-form interview series featuring actors and TV personalities. And now, from the world's #1 TV after-show platform, this is AfterBuzz TV Spotlight On.
Hello, everybody. I am your host today for another episode of Spotlight On. My name is Courtney Henderson, and I am joined today by a very special guest. You can see him on Becker, Curb Your Enthusiasm, Alcatraz, Lost, and most currently, Hawaii Five-0. I have Jorge Garcia with me today.
Thanks.
Yes. Well, I want to start, I feel like, where it's most appropriate, which is at the beginning, which is when you're born.
When I was born.
You were
okay.
born in, I saw you were born in Omaha, Nebraska.
Correct, yeah.
But you grew up in California.
Yeah, South Orange County. We moved to California when I was like 2, so I don't remember too much about what life in Omaha was like.
I feel like it'd be cold. I've driven through there once. I think your parents made a wise choice.
Yeah, it seems it was pretty cold.
And you come from parents who are both, you have a mother who is of Cuban descent and a father of Chilean descent?
Correct, yeah.
So I was trying to figure out what that makes you. Like how do you...
What do you mean?
Like...
Stereotypically?
No. I mean, just how do you merge those two to like describe what that specific ethnicity would be? Because it's I think it's such a cool mix.
I don't know. I guess I'd check just Latino on the form.
All right. Well, so that's what it that's what it
yeah
combines into. And there, one is a professor. Your mother was a professor, and your dad a doctor.
Yeah, my father passed away, but he was he had a family practice, and then he was also a pathologist at a hospital.
And so what is it growing up in a home where obviously education and all of those kinds of things with school are very important?
Well, it's interesting to decide to be an actor in that home, for one thing.
Yeah.
Just they were very concerned of going to hustle that kind of career for sure.
Yeah. And how old were you when you decided that this was it? Acting is what I'm gonna do.
I wanted to when I was young. I mean, I remember like in junior high doing a musical based on a comic strip called Drabble, and really getting a taste of audience love that really hooked me a lot. But even earlier than that, I think like when I was a kid and seeing Fiddler on the Roof and Raiders of the Lost Ark, I kind of felt like I might have wanted to be an actor then. Those are two of the movies that at least I credit for me wanting to be an actor. Yeah, I don't know. I think I went to UCLA and they were they were always kind of concerned like they wanted me to go to college for a backup plan, I guess.
Yeah. My parents too.
And so yeah, I mean, UCLA was in a way more to appease them at the start. I mean, I don't regret doing it. It's just the decision at that beginning was more for them.
Right. And so obviously you stayed in LA and at some point said, you know what, I'm doing this acting thing instead. And so what does that look like, having grown up here and at that point already being up in LA? What does that look like as far as, how does your day-to-day change when you become an actor?
Well, staying in LA was a big piece of it because after graduating college, I knew it was very important that I didn't want to move back home because that was like if people go home after they graduate, you can find yourself getting comfortable, being in your old bedroom and all that, and you could find yourself kind of stuck there for a while. And so I knew I had to immediately decide to not go home and figure out something. And I just kind of got a job. I was working at Borders in Westwood, which was not too far from UCLA, and that's kind of where it started. And then I joined an acting class, but I still kind of took a little time before I fully gave myself permission to kind of go after the hustle. And I mean, that's probably the only thing that I look back on and be like, I should have, went harder and sooner and just really gone for it.
You have to give yourself permission. I mean, that's a huge thing, I think, for
Listen,
anybody.
I'm not worried
out
about
here.
it.
Yeah.
I mean, I've achieved quite a bit of success, so it worked out.
Yeah, I would say our mom and I guess Dad is gone, but is Mom still worried about the actor thing now, or is she pretty happy with it?
It was kind of like I booked Becker, and Becker was the job that kind of gave her the sigh of relief, and then immediately after that, she's like, okay, maybe he's all right. And then it wasn't until Lost, and she can start really actually. It was more getting to brag about me, and it was just more like, okay, because it was kind of the thing that ended up sustaining you. I mean, that's kind of true for just me too, in the sense that after Becker ended, it was like this kind of just figuring out like my budget and how much money I had, and being like, okay, well, I have 6 months, but I have to go back to a retail job should that end up being in the cards for me. And just kind of suddenly Lost happened, and then not having to look back after Lost just kind of made me go, all right, so it looks like
I'm an actor.
It's official.
Yeah, it's official. So that's when for you it felt official, was Lost, and obviously that show was a huge success as far as.
Yeah, I mean, there's a moment. About a year before Lost was the move that when I quit Borders on April Fool's Day and was like, okay, this is it. We're gonna go for it, and because I had booked a pilot, and the pilot ended up having a little bit of trouble casting that I was coasting on my Borders money, which wasn't very much. And, I still wasn't getting the work to where I would end up getting the paycheck for this pilot. But, that kind of gave me some money, and then I ran out of money, and then I actually borrowed rent money from my parents. But then suddenly I got a check for a residual for a commercial I'd done 6 months earlier.
Yeah.
And because sometimes, it's like the universe protects actors, and suddenly, checks will show up magically, like at very dire moments. And I was able to return that rent check to my parents, and then suddenly stuff just started falling into place that ended with getting the job on Becker, which turned into a series regular.
Yeah, well, and that's not the first time that that's happened now. I mean, Lost, and now we have Hawaii Five-0. Where you started in this last season just as a recurring character. Yeah. And everybody likes you.
Thanks.
So I know. Well, it's funny, when I told my dad that I would be here with you today, he was like, he's on Hawaii Five-0. He's my favorite character.
Oh, that's nice.
And so, he was like, you got to watch the show. And I was like, Dad, anything you watch, I pretty much watch. So I've seen it, and you're one of my favorite characters.
It's fun whenever you do something new and that becomes a thing that people come up and tell you about. It's like, oh, good, because like I'm used to people coming up to me about Lost.
Even still.
Yeah. And like when I was doing Lost, it was always like the anomaly when someone come up to me about Becker.
Yeah.
Or Curb Your Enthusiasm. But now, like, the fact that it kind of really gave me a taste of exactly how many people watch Hawaii Five-0. And
because they're seeing you for that now.
There's a lot of people who've definitely come up to me that for Hawaii Five-0 now, and it's feels good.
I think it's a different crowd than that of Lost. I mean, there might be some overlap, but I know my dad didn't watch Lost. My brothers absolutely did, but he loves Hawaii Five-0, and like I said, loves your character on that. But you mentioned Curb Your Enthusiasm,
yes,
which is what got your role supposedly for Lost. And
yeah,
you're
I
like
mean,
the
it got me
first
the
one.
meeting at least. Yeah.
And you were the first one they came to. Is that true?
As far as
For Lost,
casting wise,
yeah.
There's different stories being told. Like, there is a story that said that I was the first one cast, but there's also stories that say that Yoonjin Kim was the first one cast, and other stories that say Ian Somerhalder was the first one cast. So I don't really know now.
Okay, so they went to all of you and said,
true.
"You're the first one we're meeting with."
But we were all also kind of, actually all three roles essentially were kind of the only people I think they saw for even. There was like, because like when I went in for Hurley, there's no sides for Hurley to read, and they just had me read this scene that was written for Sawyer, and you know, I just kind of like to get an idea of me as the actor, and then we sat and chatted and stuff, and then when I tested, they had Hurley material for me, and I think Yoonjin went in for Kate, and she wasn't right for Kate, but they liked her so much that they ended up creating her role, and then they decided that she'd be married, which ended up having to create a role for Daniel. Ian's story, I don't know. But there was going into test and seeing that I'm the only Hurley on the schedule. I remember that kind of like, you know, I'm not sure what it means.
Yeah.
But I think it's a good sign.
It's gotta feel good. You're like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, so they're looking at a couple people for this and that. But
Right.
there's only one Hurley on the
Right.
docket. Yeah. Well, and so at that point, I mean, and when you got Becker, were you auditioning regularly for these types of roles? Or I mean, kind of how do you go from kind of like trying to get that one under 5 to, you know, kind of having a regular day where as an actor?
I mean, it was a regular day. You mean when I was still working at Borders, or just like
a regular day as far as like acting?
When
where,
I'm just an actor.
Yeah, just an actor.
Yeah.
Just auditioning.
So when I decided I was just gonna be an actor, I figured, okay, I needed to essentially create a day job version of being an actor. So like figuring out things to do to promote myself, to do career work.
The hustle, as you called it earlier.
Yeah, I like to call it the hustle. And so because I basically gave myself that during the day I'd have to work for the career, and I was only allowed to watch TV during what I refer to as my lunch break, which was an hour, and it was usually watching Larry Sanders Show. and then I'd pause, you know, whatever I was doing, I'd get to like have lunch, watch TV, because I knew it'd be too easy again to spend all day on the couch coasting, and I just kind of was like, no, you need to, you know.
So you'd get
really
up every
do it.
day.
Yeah.
And
I don't know, like it's the stuff that you do as an actor. A lot of trips to Kinko's, a lot of trips to the post office, a lot of trips to Samuel French. It was, you know, during that time, you know, getting your pictures printed. It's funny coming back into the game post Lost and seeing like actors who I came up with, who were friends of mine, usually from my class, and kind of like discovering how the hustle has changed for them, where they have some of them have these cards with barcodes on them, which is what they used to now sign in, or how much is submitted electronically now. It's kind of new.
And you're not having to do that anymore.
It's different now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The approach and the way that you're going about getting jobs, acting,
and
is not the same.
There's this thing that discovering that when I go into an office, I don't need to keep a picture in my bag at all times.
They know who you are
now. Kind
now.
of figured that out.
Yeah.
Because they asked me to come in because they knew who I was.
So they're not having to like pull out your ID and make sure. Are
Yeah.
you who you say you are? It's like,
Right,
no,
so-
you walk up and they know.
So in those sense, some of the paradigm has shifted slightly.
Well, and that's got to feel good, though. You don't have to worry about headshots and resumes and all of those things because, like you said, you know, it sounds like for you work begot work.
It's less
and,
stuff. Yeah.
But it sounds like on the same token, you're not any less busy pursuing and being an actor. It's
No.
just the things that you're having to do day to day are different now.
Yes.
And so, because I mean, you're just as busy. I know you mentioned class, which, because we have studied at the same school, I know that you're still in class at Beverly Hills Playhouse.
Right.
And it was when did that become home for you? I guess. I mean, so many of us always wonder, where did all of these stars study? And it's like, I swear it's like this unknown rule or unwritten rule, like they're not allowed to say, because so many don't.
Well, joining class is really what I marked as officially entering the game of being an actor as a job.
Okay.
And I started at the Playhouse over 15 years ago. And I went up through every level. I started in orientation and worked my way up to advance. And then at the time, the Holy Grail class was Saturday class.
Right.
And I was invited to join Saturday class basically 2 weeks before I moved to Hawaii to be on Lost.
Right.
So, and then I ended up being away for 6 years, and then returning to the school later after the school had some adjustments as the head of the whole school passed away.
Right.
But it's just kind of coming up through the ranks in that school. It definitely made that place my place to be creative and take risks and fail gloriously. And so there's always like when I come back and instead of just going back to I'd been out of class for a while when I came back after doing Lost, and so instead of just going back and being part of Saturday class, which was now my opportunity, I went back to my old class as well, just because there's also this great enthusiasm that my old class had, and just kind of like still kind of has that artistic I don't know,
They're hungry for it.
Come on, gang, let's put on a show and let's do stuff. That side of it, that's kind of still exciting to be a part of that group.
And is the Beverly Hills, is that the only place you studied? I mean, you kind of like founded that, or did you take some time?
I dabbled in the Groundlings for a little bit, just because there's a lot of comedy focus as far as in the kind of jobs that I was going up for and stuff, and I just wondered if that was got a taste of it as far as like the community and the kind of stuff like character work stuff that they do there. So I went and kind of dabbled there for a little bit, but I just feel like the Playhouse is my home.
Yeah, sounds like it. You're there right now 3 times a week, you said?
Yeah.
And just soaking it all in because you're going back soon to Hawaii.
So, exactly.
Now, and I want to know, like, how did you swing that? Like, how did you swing 2 shows in Hawaii?
I don't know. I mean, the real question is, how did Daniel swing that? Because Daniel got 5-0, but he never even left.
Oh, true.
It just it worked out really well. I came back, and the next year after coming back, there was a Bad Robot pilot for Alcatraz.
Mm-hmm.
And it was created by a friend of mine from Lost, and then these other 2 guys, and eventually they went on to write for Hawaii 5-0, and those they wrote the part that brought me on for the first time.
So it was written for you.
Response. Yeah.
Jerry Ortega's
they
written for
they
you.
offered me the part. Yeah. And if you look at him, he does kind of, you can see the influence of, Diego Soto and Jerry Garcia. He's kind of Jerry Ortega, Jerry Garcia. There is like this kind of sense where I feel like he's kind of the amalgam between the 2 characters of Dr. Diego Soto and Hurley.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that. He hits that he's the split the difference between the two of them.
Yeah, like if they had a baby, it would be Jerry Ortega.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and then you get to play the part. So I didn't actually know that it sounds like a lot of the family from Lost has sort of evolved and kind of moved together from a few different things, because you did Alcatraz and now you're doing Hawaii Five-0 with sounds like some of the same people.
Yeah, well, the people in Hawaii Five-0 they worked on Alcatraz. They weren't Lost connected.
They weren't Lost.
Other than they, that Alcatraz was a bad robot show.
Okay. And so from doing Lost, I know that Weezer put out an album and they named it Hurley, and you're on the cover.
Yes.
And that you sang with them a little bit.
I did.
And like live concerts.
Yeah.
Did you like tour at all, or just when they played locally?
There was I had gotten the email from a manager. Actually, a while ago, I had taken a picture with Rivers Cuomo in the green room for the George Lopez show.
Okay.
And George Lopez Tonight. It was his talk show.
Of course.
And then sometime months later, I got this email from a manager saying that they wanted me to be the cover of their album, and this was a mock-up of what the cover would look like. And I didn't realize it was that exact picture that they were going to use, or if it was we're going to do something like this, and then we'll take a picture or not. And then sure enough, that happened. And then they invited me up to meet the band at one of their concerts. And I went up and, said hi to them. And then they had me introduce the band at this other show. And they said, maybe we'll do a song with them. Yeah, so I sang a song with them about 3 times. All in California, all local, basically.
And having done some stage work, even if just in class, obviously doing film and television, and now seeing concert, live performance, what's the difference? Is there a different sort of rush or excitement at all for that adoration and kind of excitement of entertaining people?
Wow. There is, I don't know. It's definitely something that was different and weird of like sitting there. Like I had a moment on stage. The first time I sang with them was at the Dunes Inn in their courtyard. They had the stage built up, and I was just standing there, and I was on stage with Weezer. I'm telling this to myself. Wow, this is so weird. I'm here on stage with Weezer, and I'm about to sing, and this is my real life. I don't know. I feel like I keep looking over here at a studio audience that doesn't exist.
We can pretend. There they are, all of them.
Yeah, it was like that kind of. It was an interesting kind of like surreal moment, and then the 2 shows that they did at the Gibson, I sang in front of this giant banner of my face, and it was just. It's kind of
that's hanging
surreal.
over your fireplace now, right?
I wish. But the band was super supportive and really enthusiastic, and glad that I sang with them, which was great to have their support, and the fans were super receptive too, and so it was a lot of fun.
Have you had any other sort of those like surreal or like this is my life? Like is like
always.
Pinch Me?
Always.
That's awesome.
Had a moment once at a charity event, and I look across and I see Henry Winkler, and I was like, oh, because obviously the Fonz made an impression on a lot of people, and there's a moment we kind of suddenly. We made eye contact, and he had this great moment of recognition. He kind of did this. He was like, and he comes over to me, and I walk over to him, and we kind of introduce ourselves and say hi. But it was that was a pretty cool moment too. Yeah.
So have you? I guess would maybe be the person of anybody that you've met that was sort of like the. Holy cow, like I'm standing here with...
Well, I guess I'm a pretty big fan of the Pogues and Shane MacGowan. And when I was in London for the premiere of the second Pirates of the Caribbean movie, and I saw him walk down the aisle and sit behind me, that was probably my biggest starstruck moment ever.
Yeah. And on the flip side now, a fan moment. What's like the best kind of like fan story about somebody coming and approaching you?
I remember at one point there was this. I was in New York for upfronts, and it's always interesting when you see when someone is nervous around you. Because I don't imagine myself as someone who makes somebody nervous, but then you see like someone like trying to take a selfie and like their hands are shaking, and so you kind of like let me do it, do things like that. But I remember one of them when you said that, who popped in my head was there's this this nice little old woman in New York, and she was like so like excited to see me, but spoke almost like timidly. She was like, are you on the Lost? And I would say yes, and she always would go, oh, Madonna. It was like this great little Italian lady. And everything I said and everything to tell her that she was right, it's who I was, she'd be like, oh, Madonna. And that was pretty great.
And have you ever, I've heard of people maybe doing this, and maybe you can't get away with it too much anymore, but like somebody kind of questioning, like, are you that guy from Lost? Or are you that guy from Becker? Are you that guy from Y50? And be like, oh no, I just look like him. I get that all the time.
I don't do that if they ask me that, but if they tell me that I look like that guy,
you just play it off as that.
I look exactly like that guy. And basically you force them to ask the next question, and then I'll fess up, but I'll just be like, sometimes I'll be like, yeah, I look exactly like that guy. And they're like, yeah, I was going to say that. You do. I was like,
And they leave it at that. That's it. They don't ever ask if you're... And so they go home that night and they say, you guys, you'll never believe it. I met this guy that looks just like Jorge.
I'm telling you, he's like the spitting image.
Oh, and if they only knew it had been you. But
more often, though, is I see people post pictures saying, oh, I saw Hurley from Lost here or there, like
photos of you,
random. They're not even of. They're not of me. They're just big hairy guys, and it's just
photos
like,
of themselves.
No, it's not themselves. It's just like, oh look, Hurley from Lost on a bus in Paris. Nope, not me. There's a few of those.
Oh well, you should post some of those.
Whatever. I mean, yeah. Well, there was a time when it was like, I mean, I don't run into them as many. Although what I see a lot of is there's a picture that someone snapped of me on a plane, and it's become a bit of a meme of like, because you see the guy catching the guy snapping the picture, and so they keep putting like things like Hurley from Lost, we're effed.
And of course, being on a plane and having that be such a huge part of Lost, they're gonna play with that.
I once was on a flight that had to turn around and land again, and we had to get off while they had to either fix something or replace the plane, and I was like at the desk because I had a connection. I was just checking to see if it looked like I was gonna make my connection or not. And I remember someone coming off the plane that we had all landed was like saying, were you on that flight? And I was like, it's not my fault.
I was going to ask you that too. I mean, do you get people that treat you like your characters ever?
Well, I mean, I don't know if this counts as treating them like my characters. I mean, there's definitely... enough of an impression that like Hurley made on people that a lot of people ask for hugs or go in for hugs,
They kind of feel like they know.
Which is kind of odd for
Yeah.
a stranger.
Right,
At least
because
for me.
to
it's
you,
like-
you have no
it's
idea who
like,
this person is.
Yeah, right.
But they feel like they know you
That-
because they
yeah.
watched you for so long.
that I'm worth hugging.
But that's gotta feel a little bit good. Like the people, I mean,
It's
they
nice.
want to give you a hug.
It's nice, but
the
it's,
stranger,
it's,
yeah.
It's a little
You're
discomforting.
just kind of like, oh. Well, you have Wi-Fi. Well, I know you're going to film that here soon. And you've had quite a few other things that you've done. You've been busy with, I saw you've done a couple of shorts and you're doing a voice for a character.
I am. Yeah.
Is it Tibetan Rock Dog?
Yeah.
Am I saying that
or
right?
It might just be called Rock Dog.
Okay.
Um.
And you play,
Where'd you pull that out of?
it's on IMDb.
Oh, it is? Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
it's
I
a-
wasn't sure if that's
Oh,
something
if it
to
was
talk
out
about
there
or
yet?
not. All right, that's cool. Right on. Yeah. Yeah, that's a kind of... I've done a little bit of voice stuff, but this is kind of the first real big thing. It's been a lot of fun. I went in for only one session so far, and I think we're going to try to squeeze another one in before I go, but it was such a cool, kind of a loose recording experience where in a way like the mics would kind of stay open and so I was able to to have us allow us to improvise with each other a little bit if we wanted to, which was really fun. And the other cool thing about it was that they had this like a GoPro camera right there on the easel of my script. So they were also recording facial expressions and stuff should they want to use that
For when they
for the
drop
animation.
the characters. So you
that's really
you
cool.
haven't seen any of it as far as like
I've
the
seen-
characters?
As far as my character, I've
Yeah.
seen like the initial, picture.
Okay. Like the idea of what the characters kind
And
of look
they did kind of have like a series of still pictures of like to kind of in a way almost like an animated storyboard with like boom to here like without actually animating like mouths moving or anything like
Right.
that, but just like still pictures, maybe facial expressions changing to kind of get the idea of what goes on in any given scene.
And so are you just sitting there? I mean, obviously because you're stuck to a mic. Or do you find yourself, because you said it's loose and you kind of get to improv, do you kind of act at all, or is it kind of like you put it all into your voice, like all of your acting is in your voice?
No, well, there's other actors are there, so you can look across. There's a little bit of distance between you because they have to be at their mic and stuff like that. Yeah, I don't know. This is kind of the first time really doing that, so I was just kind of using, like, when I go in for, like, a looping session, and, if there's, like, a lot of work to do in a looping session, I would, a lot of times I like to take my shoes off and just sit, and I stand. I just, so that's basically what I did for that. Just kind of like, I kind of just stand with my knees slightly bent and just kind of do, just kind of like a position of being like at the ready for whatever. And that's just kind of how I did it. I don't know if it's right yet, 'cause I haven't really done it enough to really put things to the test.
All right, to build your
But,
science of it.
Yeah.
And so you have that, and then you did a couple of shorts. It looks like Spade and the
Oh, I did.
the Lummox.
Oh, the Lummox.
The
Yeah,
Lummox
yeah, yeah.
is that?
Lummox was like a project that came out of class.
Okay.
Actually both those are class related. People who I knew from class that kind of did it.
And I love that because I feel like a lot of people don't, I'll say, give back or kind of get involved if they have studied somewhere and they go on and make it and they just kind of go on and live their life and have their career. But from my understanding and knowing some of the classmates that you study with, you're very much a part of the class. There is absolutely no separation between, Jorge, successful actor, working actor, and the guy in class that's a very good actor but still working at Borders or working in the restaurant or whatever. So I mean, was that something when you went back to class that you were worried about or kind of felt like that there would be that separation?
I kind of was. I mean, not so much as like that, but to, a very important part of the class is to have essentially a place to fail.
Yeah.
And to take risks when no one's watching. And there's a little bit of a warming period. I've come back twice now, like, because I came back after 6 years, and then I was there for about a year before I left again to do Alcatraz, and I was gone for about a year. So in a way, every time you come back, there's some new students, there's certain things like that, and just kind of like there's a little bit of warming back to the class to where you can use it as your gym again.
Right.
And hopefully that period gets shorter and shorter every time I go away and come back.
Yeah. And I mean, it sounds like you're at that point now. You've been back for a while now.
Yeah.
So it's nice to see that you're comfortable and all of that. And that do you find that it's ever hard for you to kind of approach other students because you're not sure, or even just people in general? I mean, you're obviously recognizable. So day-to-day things change, and you can't just sort of be anonymous anymore.
Well, I don't have a problem. There's a certain sense of that, the class is my safe place. So I don't really have a problem going up to students in class to work on things like that. I have heard people tell me later on that they were nervous when they first approached me for whatever and things like that. And usually that's kind of like the start of a conversation that says like, oh, but it's okay now.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Now I know you're cool and we're actually friends.
So I don't really know all that's how that effect actually has on people, but I don't know. I do think this just has to be like eventually you just gotta, everyone's just that's what when I was fanboying over Henry Winkler. That's all he was like saying. Says, come on, man, we're just
colleagues, or
we're just actors, just kind of doing our thing.
Which is so cool that people, yes, they're hugely successul, but they're just people, and you just like, what I mean? But they think of themselves that way.
Just people.
Because I feel like sometimes, like you're saying, people get intimidated.
Well,
and they don't think that they're like this on the same level. That you're both just people. They happen to have this like wildly public job.
Yeah, well, one of the best parts about Lost was the fact that we did it way out in, remote areas of a remote island. So it's like Hawaii is further away from everywhere. And then even in Hawaii, we're like off the beaten path, working in like, jungle terrain or whatever.
Yeah.
And so it was very easy to get caught up that this was kind of just a show that me and my friends did. And, we have all these people we're working on. And then something you'd go to the Golden Globes and the zoo of, all that stuff and go like, oh, yeah, right. Or going to, like Madrid for international press and seeing like these crowds of people and so many of them are in costume and just like going, oh, yeah, I forgot.
They're here for me, for the show that I'm on.
This show reaches a lot of people and they seem to like it.
And they pay my bills because of it.
Sure.
Heck yeah. Okay, well, one last thing I want to kind of touch on is you're such a kind of like normal fun guy, which I appreciate. It's like nice to get to talk to somebody that doesn't like put up a front at all. But you're not married. You have never been married, correct?
Correct.
And I guess
where is this going?
Don't be no. I mean, there's so many actors and actresses out there that spend their time in this business and they go in and out of these relationships and in and out of marriages, and you've somehow either found a way or chosen not to kind of let that affect your career or your life. Okay, what am I trying to say? Basically, you've avoided kind of that game of it, or sort of that in and out of all these relationships and failed relationships that are very public. And I guess, is that intentional?
Wow. Yeah, well, it's intentional in terms of like wanting to have some privacy, but I mean, I've gone through relationships. I mean, I've had relationships that don't succeed, and it's just. But I'm also not really. I don't think there's as much of a demand for whatever my relationship ups and down stuff as it is of other people. I'm not that kind of public actor. Like, I mean, yeah, I'm not a magazine cover scandal person. It's just
count your blessings, I would say.
Right.
But I think, some people
Find
sort of,
wood somewhere,
yeah, knock on wood. Some people kind of search for that, I think, and kind of welcome and open themselves up to that, where others choose not to, whether or not they're,
I don't know,
cover worthy. But
yeah,
but you just, there's
always just kind of the moment when, it's just there's I don't know, relationships is enough work as it is without having the scrutiny of the public on it.
Agreed.
So, I'm always there's moments when you be with someone enough time, there will be a moment where suddenly it becomes public knowledge, and then whatever, the record on the internet is forever. So it's like going, oh yeah, you can Google and see
always go
girlfriends
back.
that I've had, and so there's always the moment when it's like going, okay, when on whatever platform where I send information out, there's always the moment when it's like going, when do I start saying we in a relationship?
Yeah.
When do I start mentioning them by name or whatever? So I don't know. That's stuff when you just learn by doing, and you go, okay, next time maybe
I know how to do this better.
And every time it's like going, I don't want to share any of this with anybody.
Yeah.
Just keep that as one of my own things, but I don't know.
Well, I think, are you single now? For all the ladies out there watching? For all the ladies in the audience watching?
Yeah.
Yeah?
At the moment.
At the moment? All right. Well, I'll have to look on your Instagram and Twitter, etc., to see the day that changes.
Jeez. It won't. I don't know. Yeah.
I feel like I'm making you nervous now.
Yeah. Suddenly this interview is taking an odd turn to personal life.
All right. Well, we'll go back. I want to say what's your favorite part you've played so far? And what kind of a part, we'll make it 2-part. And kind of like what in the horizon is the kind of part that you hope to get, or kind of the character that you haven't had the chance to play that you want to?
Wow, I don't know. Last summer I did a movie called Cooties, which is a horror comedy that Spectravision made.
Mm-hmm.
And they approached me about doing another movie of theirs this summer, which I'm hoping can still be fit in before I have to go to Hawaii Five-0. And that was a character I really liked. Like, I've been such a lovable, nice guy for so long that to kind of start steering towards maybe someone darker or something like that. That's kind of like Spade. Spade is kind of a darker character, and just kind of getting to explore, more pathology. That would be fun.
Yeah. Well, fingers crossed.
Yeah,
we'll see what happens. Well, where can we find you on Instagram, Twitter? Are you a big social media person?
I'm, I don't know how big I am, but, I can just see them lifting that little piece. Yeah, on Twitter, I'm at Jorge Garcia, and on Instagram, I am pronounced Jorge, Horhay. It's like spelled phonetically.
Phonetically, yeah.
Yeah.
Easy enough.
Instagram was something I joined on the set of The Wedding Ringer, which was this movie I did back in October. This is Kevin Hart, Josh Gad comedy. And everybody was on Instagram as far as the cast there.
So you'd go to like say hi to somebody and like everybody's face
that
is down
was
their
like
phone.
There's a lot of like social pressure to, you know, join Instagram and post pictures of us shooting this thing. And I was like, yeah, okay, I'll join this club. And so it's become actually my favorite part of tweeting, because tweeting with pictures is just that much, you know, it's like one louder.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you so much for joining me today.
It is a pleasure.
I am your host, Courtney Henderson, and thank you for joining us here, Jorge Garcia and I, for another episode of Spotlight On. I can be found on Twitter and Instagram at Cohen, Couhen, and we will see you next time.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.
Thank you for watching AfterBuzz TV on YouTube. For more of your favorite after shows and interviews, subscribe to our channel here, and be sure to share your opinion on the episode in the comment section below here. We'd love to see what you guys are buzzing about. Thanks again. Buzz you later.